Good evening, welcome. You're watching The Last Word. I'm Vishnu Som. The Indian government has revoked the security clearance of Celebi Airport Services, a Turkish firm handling critical operations at 9 major airports, citing national security concerns. The decision follows Turkey's military support for Pakistan, including drones used against India during Op Sindoor, prompted by Pakistan's alleged backing of terrorism. Delhi's sentiment is clear. Companies linked to Turkey in any which way, which endorse Pakistan, a state sponsor of terrorism, cannot operate in sensitive sectors. Other ground handlers like AISATS and the Bird Group have stepped in to ensure smooth operations. There are others as well. Celebi is reportedly suing India, challenging the ban and warning of job losses. Well, joining us now, General Rakesh Sharma, Professor Anuradha Chinoy, and Ambassador Bhashwati Mukherjee. Ambassador Mukherjee, let me come to you first. How justified is India's decision to revoke Celebi's security clearance, given Turkey's documented supply of drones and military support to Pakistan during Operation Sindoor, which obviously targeted Indian interests?
I think, Vishnu, it was a very timely move, and we did the right thing in doing it right away. These drones were supplied to Pakistan at throwaway prices also. They had reduced the rates, and they actually cost 1/4 of the normal price of, let's say, Israeli drones, etc. And they also unabashedly, throughout the procedure, supported Pakistan at the highest level. And it is inconceivable that we should allow them to think that they can do this to our country and they would feel that it's business as usual. Certainly not. And that too in high security areas. So I am very happy that this action has been taken. And I do believe that it is accompanied by a boycott by patriotic Indians all over, so that Indian tourists don't go there to boost Turkish tourism and their economy. This is again something which has come spontaneously from Indians, and I really welcome that, because I think that Turkey has made a huge strategic mistake. It is a NATO country. It is situated between Asia and Europe. We've had historical ties with Turkey, and there was no reason for Turkey to take such a pro-Pakistani position.
All right, Ambassador Mukherjee, I'll just quickly keep the strike rotating, get in some more reactions. Professor Chinoy, should India extend our boycott of Turkish firms like Celebi to other sectors, considering Turkey's consistent backing of Pakistan? So, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
Well, look, you can contrast Turkey with other countries in West Asia. Look at the position that Iran, Saudi Arabia, UAE took. They took a neutral position. They came, UAE and Iran and Saudi Arabia, in fact, sent their foreign ministers here offering to mediate. So to kind of quell the kind of, so when the two countries are at war, it's a bilateral issue. So for a country like Turkey to take this position, I think, Ambassador Bhashwati is right. It was uncalled for. And so India, therefore, has to view that it's not a neutral country and it's taking sides. So should it be there in critical sectors? The security advisors would obviously, be very hesitant about it.
General Sharma, the flip side of the argument is that Celebi was employing approximately 10,000 people in India. They claim in a statement that they aren't directly linked to Turkey. They're more an international organization. They've shared details of their holding structure, and they say that they've got nothing to do with Pakistan themselves, and that the people being employed are Indians in India across 9 airports. We obviously prioritize economic growth as well. Is there any merit in that argument?
Thank you, Vishnu, for inviting me. So the fact is that Celebi is an organization which is Turkish, and you can't get out of the fact. They have got pilots which have been of Turkish military origin, also flying in India, and that becomes a little more serious issue. Pakistan and Turkey has had very long relationships. It's not new. They've upgraded the F-16 aircraft. They have been training exercises, etc. But at this juncture, when we were having confrontation with Pakistan, to send a ship anti-submarine corvette to be landing up in end of April, and also a C-130 aircraft. Now, later on, you say C-130 aircraft was not carrying anything, but it came to Karachi, and at the same time, on 29th to 30th of April. So it is not circumstantial; it is actually proven that the naval ship and the C-130 had different names altogether. Also, because of the long-term relationship that they have. Oh, indeed, I agree with you. Celebi is ground handling capacity. There were 10,000 Indians employed, but the work is not going anywhere. The work is still existing. It will be the voids filled in by other companies which do exist, and there are already companies which are saying they'll take it on. So the handling required to handle all these issues will remain, and we'll have to work hard to make sure that these people who are laid off will hereafter be employed by some other company. So some other void is. And some other void is being
No,
filled
in fact, General Sharma, that's already happening. And I think a lot of people worried about what happens to these 10,000 odd people. And I think that's an extremely valid concern. They signed up to work. They're getting jobs is not all that easy. And they find themselves in the middle of something they have nothing to do with. But the fact that several other companies in the aviation sector and the ground support sector have picked them up on the same terms of condition. Yeah. That's been announced in Delhi, in Mumbai and elsewhere. I think that's welcome news. So that takes care of that concern about what happens to these 10,000 odd people, presuming that all of them get jobs. Perhaps there'll be some job losses. But Ambassador Mukherjee, the other side of this is that there are direct Indian economic interests also at stake. For example, Indigo operates flights with Turkish Airways and they are very reluctant to stop those services. They believe that they offer services and price at a price point which other airlines do not offer, opening up so many areas beyond Turkey, which is where which operates as a hub for Indians. Therefore, do you believe that we need to decide who gets impacted, or do we extend, sort of this ban to Indigo as well?
We have to extend the ban to Indigo, and I would, through your channel, tell Indigo that the Turks had absolutely no scruples in loading Pakistan with cheap drones, which caused sleepless nights to Indian citizens, ranging all the way from Chandigarh to Amritsar to Jaisalmer to Jodhpur, etc. As Indians, they should consider that with such action, are they going to just consider the business interests, or are they going to look at India's core national interests? We have to link these issues together. So while I fully support the fact that business and corporate interests are important for India, and we have an important bilateral trade with Turkey, where actually the trade balance is in India's favor, I would nevertheless still say that considering the way, as Lieutenant General Sharma said, considering the way they deliberately decided to openly take Pakistan's side and to help them militarily at a time when they knew that this conflict is between two nuclear-armed nations, and they are a NATO country and allied with the West, but they still decided to take the side of Pakistan. I think that we have no option but to tell Indigo that the arrangement that they have is not acceptable and that they have to find other arrangements. And I refuse to believe that it would not be possible for Indigo to find an alternate, exactly as we found alternates overnight for Celebi, which incidentally, Vishnu, according to evidence which has been presented, is actually 60% owned by the Turkish president's daughter. They are trying to deny it, but the evidence is there for all to see. All you have to do is to Google it to see who owns the shares and stock. It's owned by Erdogan's daughter. So that again is a factor that Indians through your channel need to know. There's a direct linkage with the Turkish president, whose statements with regard to India have been hostile, to say the least, and he has deliberately and consistently said he supports Pakistan. So be
Ambassador Chinoy, I understand what Ambassador Mukherjee is saying, and I tend to agree with what she's saying, but it's been a while since we've known that Turkey has issues with India. They back Pakistan. They've endorsed Pakistan. on their position on Kashmir, etc., etc. Even now in the Pahalgam terror attack, we haven't really received, support from Turkey, which is horrific because Turkey itself is a victim of terrorism. But to avoid a situation where companies go out of business, should we not in India have, had a more clear way in deciding and telling companies that, look, we are being vetted, and therefore if you're operating in a sensitive sector like aviation, and based on the fact that you come from a country like China or Turkey, I'm sorry, but you cannot work here, rather than have to do this now at this stage? It's not new where Turkey has been.
Yeah. Well, I think in security sectors, definitely those companies involved at airports, etc., those need to be closed down. But I think in the commercial sector, tea, coffee, commercial flights, people will kind of take an initiative, especially that commerce, that kind of commercial to and fro is helping India. So I think we can't take every step together. I think we've started. And mind you, India has been very, very neutral with Turkey. They themselves have a huge insurgency movement they've had with the Kurds. And India has never intervened or said anything about it, which they could have as a quid pro quo. But India has been very magnanimous with Turkey. And I think we need to kind of bring out all these factors. But as far as commercial interests are concerned, I don't think there should be a sweep banning. If people don't want to travel to Turkey, gradually, as a lot of people have cancelled, gradually they will do so. There are alternatives, and I think India's private sector is very mature. And I think they would take steps themselves, but I don't think we should really kind of impose that kind of censorship on that sector.
General Sharma, it's a complicated world. There are different groupings and different interests. Turkey, of course, is a part of NATO, and as part of that, the United States, which is obviously a key ally of ours, is also arming Turkey. In fact, Turkey has just signed up on an order for AMRAAM missiles to be used on their F-16 aircraft. And we can't do anything about that. America is an ally of ours. America, of course, has condemned the terror attacks in Pahalgam, but they continue to arm NATO Turkey as well. My point in saying this, we all know that Turkey is a part of NATO, is that these relationships are complex. And in as much as we want to punish Turkey, we cannot punish some of our closest allies who have links with them.
So I think we have to also, make a bubble of it. You cannot generalize as to what countries have relationship with what. Turkey has got fine relationship with even Russia. We too have relationship with Russia. Turkey has been trying to mediate between Ukraine and Russia for a very long time. And then Turkey has relationship with Europe. So, we cannot say that, their relationships we should frown upon. Every country is entitled to have relationships as per their own national interest. And in fact, we shouldn't even grudge in case they have a relationship with Pakistan. But not to have, say, two of their contractors or drone contractors were killed in one of our strikes in Pakistan doesn't sound nice. That sounds complicity. And, that complicity is not a good game. You are actually supporting the nation in a fight against India. That's a separate issue altogether. Pakistan's relationship with China, we're not detaching ourselves from China in our cooperation and many other issues. But this direct support is not a good idea. And I'd also say, add on to what the professor was saying, look, Turkey is a hub which connects, say, United States to India, and lots and lots of people change over either using Etihad or Emirates or Turkish Airlines and Indigo. If Indigo is being told to move away from Turkey, then it's important that Indigo makes an effort to create another hub, so that people who are booked for 6 months to 8 months traveling from United States or from Europe through changing over at Istanbul in a code sharing manner, they are not harmed at all. It's our own public who's coming, people flying to and fro. It should be that they should be losing money because the hub has been spoiled. So I think,
General Sharma, I take that point. Last word to Ambassador Mukherjee. Ambassador Mukherjee, just 1 minute for this discussion. How does India therefore go about our relationship with Turkey. It's an important economic power. It has a huge stake in West Asia. And yet we find, a problem with Turkey, not the Turkish people, but the leadership of Turkey. How do we diplomatically navigate this?
We have been diplomatically navigating, Vishnu, for a very long time. But this is the first time, as Lieutenant General Sharma said, that they have openly taken the side of Pakistan in an ongoing military conflict. That places the present scenario in a different context from the past. In other words, Turkey, which straddles Asia and Europe, which has a historic relationship with India, which is a NATO country in part of the West, and yet has never managed to join the European Union because of the deep divisions within the EU about Turkish membership of the EU, and therefore preferred to be called an Asian rather than a European state, has today positioned itself in a manner in which it has deeply damaged its bilateral relationship with India. That is something that Turkey has to come to terms with and understand. And these measures that we are taking will enable the government and people of Turkey to understand the implications of their actions in the middle of a military conflict when we were being bombarded with drones the whole night through. My friends in Chandigarh and Jammu told me they had 4 sleepless nights. This is not something that we Indians can forget in a hurry.
It is entirely unacceptable, Ambassador Mukherjee. I agree completely with you. Thank you all very much for being with us.